If there's one system that I can impress upon anybody that's listening to this podcast today, it's go smell like your sheep. If you smell like your sheep, I promise your business is going to be healthy. I promise your effort's going to be healthy. Even if you're not the guy or gal that owns the shop, if you smell like your sheep, the sheep are going to be in good shape, and the sheep will take care of you, and you can take care of your sheep. And that was modeled to us a couple thousand years ago of what it was really supposed to look like.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. As always, wherever you're listening to this, we're so glad that you're joining us on the Lease Road Commute podcast. As always, I'm Rick. This is Ray. We're your hosts, and we are joined with a very special guest that we're really excited to have here. This man could get you excited to file your taxes. He's an awesome oilman and a great leader, and we're so glad to have him. We have Jared Blong with us today.
Hey, glad to be here, guys. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah,
Looking forward
thanks
to
for
our
joining us.
conversation.
Yeah, glad
Yeah.
you're here.
Yeah, this is exciting. Jared's actually been on the short list for me to have on the podcast. Some people here in Midland might be familiar with him. If you're not familiar with him, he's a great leader. He's founded Octane Energy, correct? Octane Energy. They do several different things, but Jared's very involved in lots of different leadership things. He's also a man of faith, and I love his perspective on a lot of different things. Before we get going, I gotta ask, because everyone's so curious, what is it like being married to the mayor?
Well, being the first gentleman in the history of the city, I can tell you that it's just not sexy.
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility to lead a leader,
Mm.
and in the context of our faith and just relationship with Jesus, we feel like that, we still have pretty traditional roles in our home. And I think, my primary role is to enable Lori to flourish and thrive. And so, over the last 21, almost 22 years now, 22 years since we've known each other, trying to figure out what that recipe looks like
Hmm.
has been challenging and exciting, and it's been a wild adventure. But to just really watch her grow into this role and just kill it, honestly.
Yep.
And I recognize that I'm probably biased in saying that, but I know lots of others in our community feel like things are going really, really well right now, and because of that, there's a ton of pressure. This is a really performance-driven town,
Sure.
Hmm.
very high on meritocracy, and her maiden name is in fact Merritt. And so there's like some prophetic kind of announcement around that
Yep.
brings extra pressure. But man, we're just actually a pretty normal family and a normal Midland business
Hmm.
family. And, we've bootstrapped and we're trying to raise kids. And, we've got one in college, one in high school, one in junior high, going into this fall. And it's just the word balance has nothing to do with what our life looks like as kind of the first family of Midland.
Hmm.
It's just all in all the time. And in the summer, we try to kind of have some reprieve in that. And in the fall, we go to Annapolis and celebrate Navy football and our midshipmen and those kinds of things. But apart from that, it's just all out, all Midland, all the time. We're so for the Permian. We're so for West Texas, and it's thriving and flourishing, and the people that live here. And we want as a family to create an environment and hopefully facilitate an environment where people love being here and grow businesses, and where we can what we do here in the business in Midland, particularly in unlocking energy. And that's kind of a key point of what we do in our business as well, is um, really enable flourishing to happen, human flourishing to happen on a global scale. Because what we do here, as you guys well know, we export everywhere, and both intellectually and from an energy perspective and a creativity perspective, this is one of the best places in the world to live, and we get to export it everywhere. And it's
Agreed.
what a wonderful privilege we have to live here.
That's right.
Yeah.
You kind of skipped over your kids there. Just got one in college. You don't get to do that. We need a little, just a couple of minute detail on
Yeah.
on what that looks like. You mentioned Navy football in Annapolis. So.
Yeah. So our oldest, Merritt, she's entering her second year as a midshipman, and has gone through the gauntlet of being a plebe and plebe summer last summer, and all the things that come along with being a plebe, learning about subordination and leadership and teamwork. She was part of the 13th company last year. They actually won at Sea Trials. They won the Iron Company, which is a huge honor for their company. And all of her and her fellow midshipmen are deployed kind of around the planet this summer, training, learning more about what it means to be in the Navy and the United States Marine Corps. And it's an extraordinary privilege to get to represent Texas District 11 as she goes into her next year. And fun fact about Midland, so we actually have 3 midshipmen right now as a city. We've got a firstie or senior, and then we've got a youngster, and I'm going to totally butcher this, and she's going to assail me for this and getting him wrong. So we essentially have a senior, junior, and a sophomore all on the yard, which is what Annapolis is called. That's what the campus is referred to right now. So as a community, we have a lot to be thankful for in this next generation of leadership, particularly within the Department of the Navy that represents both the Navy and the United States Marine Corps, and just fine young men and women that represent the entire swath of what is America and some of America's finest kids at really all 3 service academies. But as a parent, it's so fun to get to watch just this next generation of leaders. We got to go to the Army Navy game this last year, which it is an unparalleled college football experience. I don't care what college you went to. It's college football in its purest sense. The president comes, and this year, President-elect was there with his kind of team, and there was a huge roar of support in between both the Army cadets and the naval midshipmen. And it was a great football game, and just all the pomp and circumstance and the Americana that goes around it. It's just, man, it's an extraordinary experience.
You bet.
For sure. So it makes you feel good about being a parent and about being an American both.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And Merritt's obviously got some high capacity parents. Got a mom that's tremendous leader and thriving, and dad as well. So excited to see her take the next steps. Super thankful for her service.
Well,
as well.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So back to you. How did you find your way to Midland, Texas, oil and gas? What that journey kind of look like for you?
Yeah. So I would say going into college, I knew in some capacity that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea what that was going to look like. As I went through college, I thought maybe that was going to look like being in the kind of quick service restaurant business, and that evolved as time went along. But like a lot of people, you get out of school, you go work for somebody, you learn things, you learn how to sell something or to do a technical skill that hopefully makes you a contributor on a team. And so I had the really wonderful privilege of working for some really smart people. They were great entrepreneurs and business people and cared enough about me to lead well and facilitate my ability to learn leading. And I'm so grateful for those guys. Ronnie Flowers was my first employer, and he's a quintessential kind of West Texan, gritty, like just ballsy kind of dude. And he was so much fun to be around, so much fun to learn from. And he was like one of those guys that just kind of threw me to the wolves and said, "Hey, here's the basics, go knock them dead.
Figure it out."
And it was so great for me, honestly, because I had to figure it out. You're right. Absolutely right. And then I worked for a guy named D. Margo, who's used to be the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army and a mayor in El Paso, and he was a great leader, a mentor, college football player. So we kind of resonated around our jock ethos, if you will, and loved working for that guy. And he took some gambles on me, and hopefully they paid out for him. I think they did. But one of them was kind of the last 6 months I worked for him. He sat me down in July of 2009 and said, "Hey, I think there's more for you than this place. And I don't actually know what that is. And we'd love for you to stay here. But I love you and care about you. And so I want to give you, and our shareholders want to give you the next few months to investigate what that is. And if that's staying here, man, we're thrilled about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if it's not, we're 100% behind you."
Wow.
And that was, from a leadership standpoint, this guy's chairman of organization, super risky.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But I didn't forget it.
You bet.
And it completely changed the trajectory that Lori and I were on.
Hmm.
got us out of El Paso, went to Brownwood, ultimately, but we went through a huge investigative project, process. Thought, hey, how do we find a business to run? How do maybe we go to grad school? A whole variety of things.
Until he had said that, were you kind of on that path, or were you
No,
just
not at all,
working?
man. I was like just rolling, like, hey, we're gonna build a huge book of business. I was in the insurance and risk business at the time, um, working on both sides of the Texas and Mexico border, really loving life. Like, it was a great company. Loved living in El Paso, like such a great culture in El Paso. El Paso is one of these like really well kept secrets in the state of Texas, and more people need to go there. More people need to visit. It's a beautiful community with an absolutely like fantastic family culture,
Mm.
and
Not to mention the food.
not to mention the food. I mean, it completely ruined me for Mexican food the rest of my life.
Yeah.
They take all the
Yeah.
blandness of New Mexico and make it
Oh
good,
my
or what?
That's
goodness.
right.
No,
That's right.
literally,
That's right.
literally.
The Guarencian culture like came in,
Ugh.
as a Paso del Norte for, for centuries.
My first lunch meeting Jared when we sat down at Cork and Pig, we talked for about 30 minutes on how amazing green chili is and how we wish that that type of food would just mitigate all the way to Midland.
Yeah,
Not,
I mean, it really does need to come to like just past the Pecos River, right?
Mhm.
And if it made it to the Colorado River and just stopped, and then like everything west was green chili,
Well, Rick
perfect.
is the like ambassador for green chili. He like puts it in
try.
his coffee or
I try.
cereal or whatever. So
Green
I
chili and
tried.
coffee. I haven't tried that yet, but I'll give it
You
a
know,
go.
in Las Cruces, you can get it at McDonald's, Sonic, and you can even get it on your ice cream.
is that
Yeah.
right?
You can.
And
I'm not
and
lying.
I think Rick and I talked about this when we first met. Like, we used to go chili picking with our oldest when she was little bitty, and it was so much fun because you go into these chili. It's a brilliant business model, right? Like, grow chilies, have other people pick your chilies,
Yep.
have them pay you to come pick your chilies.
Yep.
Who would have thought,
I like
right?
it. Yeah.
And but yeah, it just created this love affair with like kind of like the frontera food and New Mexico vibe,
Mhm.
and it was just really fantastic, man. I love living there. Lori doesn't have quite as fond of memories of El Paso as I do, but I think looking backwards, we both were just, man. We had great people in our lives and tremendous opportunities, and two of our kids were born in El Paso, and so we think it's in their blood,
Mhm.
and you can't shake it, and
You
it's a
bet.
great thing. Yeah.
So you find yourself in Brownwood.
Yeah,
and-
Fender Stone Brownwood ended up working for a friend of ours that we thought was kind of in the twilight of their career, and really approached him about, hey, you know some other buddies that are like more in the twilight of their career that maybe don't have a succession plan. Would love for you to introduce us to those guys. Maybe we can buy their businesses as time goes on. Learn from them and then buy their businesses. And he said, "Whoa, wait. Come talk to me about that." I was like, That's not why I called you, Jim. Like,
Mhm.
this is not the point." And anyway, Lori and I both went to interview with them, and kind of visited with them. Ended up taking over their Brownwood branch in hopes to kind of kick into their business, learn.
This was
Their
the insurance.
No, this was industrial supply, plumbing supply kind of
Okay.
business
Okay.
in Brownwood. Yeah, and got into it, and man, learned so much. Got kind of reintroduced to blue collar world, which I'd kind of had some early jobs in, kind of in college, particularly high school and college, and just fell back in love with like the blue collar vibe, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And then actually while we were in El Paso, but kind of it was a huge push in this kind of direction in Brownwood. Lori's daddy got sick, had cancer, and was kind of fighting through that. So ultimately, we ended up moving back to Midland in response to kind of his cancer diagnosis and just really trying to lend a hand
Mhm.
to the family. And so I just kind of came out here for JOB and ended up hooking up with a drilling company and well site consultancy and contract operating outfit. An old guy who's deceased now named Randy Ford, who was like just this crusty old driller that was so much fun to work for.
Yeah.
And he trusted me with stuff he'd never should have trusted me with.
Yep.
But because of that, it was like every day was this massive learning opportunity.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the drilling business, man. I fell in love with the oil business.
Yep.
And like a bad drug habit.
Mhm.
And he
It'll
knew
do-
it.
It'll do
Yep.
that.
He knew
Yeah.
it. And it was so much fun. And so in 2013, kind of had an impasse with one of the partners, and he came to me and said, "Hey, what's next?" And I said, "Man, I'd really love to build a high tech drilling company. You guys are kind of doing the legacy thing. It was before the horizontal kind of run had really kicked off. We said way more vertical rigs than we did horizontal rigs at the time. And so Octane was born in the spring of 2013. And all the while, Lori had lost a granddad. We ended up losing her daddy. Lost two grandparents as well. So like 4 family deaths, had a kid born, started a company. It was completely wheels off.
Holy smokes.
And one of those opportunities where you're like, Lord, you told us to pray for daily bread, but I didn't think you like really meant it.
Mhm.
But he did.
Yeah.
And we did. And man, some amazing stuff happened in that transition, including a guy named Leroy Peterson, who was running another drilling company at the time. Like 3 days after we started Octane, like we started Octane on Friday, and on Sunday morning I had a complete nervous breakdown, and
Mhm.
I ran into this guy at church on the way, and he's like, "Bond," I was like, "Sir, heard you and Ford broke up." I said, "Well, we might have." He's like, "Good. I've got a project for you. I need you to come help me with something. What's it going to cost?" And I just spouted off a number to him. And he's like, "I have a check to you tomorrow. I'll make sure you work it off."
Oof.
Oh,
And it got us
wow.
started. And it was a huge gamble.
Mhm.
And really, my leadership journey and entrepreneurial journey is about people gambling on us
Yep.
in ways that no other sane human should have done.
Sure.
And just grateful for those people and how that has springboarded us in the oil business and all the things that we've gotten to do over the last 12 years. It's been really a fun adventure.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
So Octane started on the as a drilling side, and then kind of moved into more the E&P side.
Yeah, so we thought we were going to start this high-tech Permian-based drilling company, like build rigs based here. No drilling company is based here, you know, to my great frustration still, because this is like the heart of American energy.
Mhm.
And and we've got great companies, Patterson, H&P, Precision. I can run down the list, on and on and on. Great companies. But none of them are based here. And I thought kind of found a fence to that.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, we need to fix this problem.
Yep.
And it was really before all of the technological evolutions had really hit the field. And so we got to kind of have a blank slate design wise. So, man, we were pressing on that. Man, it made 48, private equity board level presentations over kind of an 18-month, not quite 18-month period of time after we started, and thought, man, we've got this licked. It's going to happen. And then of course everybody was familiar with the Black Friday event of 2014, and man, just woke up. It's like, okay, God, this is not the path. We don't owe anybody money. We don't have any equipment rusting in the field right now. We're just going to double down on this consulting thing that's kind of kept us alive for the last year and a half, 2 years, and we did. And man, the company, we had some tough days ahead. Everybody was there. Everybody got the
Sure.
t-shirt in 15,
You bet.
right? Maybe had their shorts trimmed a little bit.
Yep.
And but then, man, the second half of 15, everything changed, and it was a miraculous turnaround. And we know where that help came from. It came from the Lord, and we just showed up. And so, man, we grew from a team of 2 ultimately to a team of about 140 over the next several years. And man, learned a lot of hard lessons and a lot of lessons about leadership and what to do and what not to do, and how to love field leaders well.
Mm.
How to lead field leaders well. And we actually adopted some vernacular that BP had instituted kind of post the initial kind of invasion and the kind of the first set of vets that were coming out of Afghanistan and Iraq. They had this well site leader of the future program. So they took all these combat veterans, trying to train them how to be, oil field leaders, kind of consultants. So they went through this program. I was like, man, this is actually a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
And so we studied a lot, started recruiting those guys that had gone through that program, and then said, wait a second, we can like roll with this in a whole different way. And so really started pursuing combat vets ourselves, and trying to grow a business around that. Hired some leaders around that. Had a handful of guys from the 75th Ranger Regiment that worked for us at the time that were hugely influential in my personal leadership journey. I can't thank those guys enough. A guy named Casey Calder was a regiment guy years and years ago. Dean Durham, who ended up being our VP of operations, was the 75th guy. And then we had a command sergeant major that worked for us. A guy named James Pippin, who was actually inducted into Ranger Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago,
Dang.
who I can't thank enough for helping me grow as a leader, because he completely roasted me on a weekly basis. And it was the most loving thing he could have done as a man to help me grow. And he knew it, and he knew that I could take it, or I think he assumed that I could take it.
Mhm.
And man, I'm just so immensely grateful for some really tough guys loving me hard and helping me grow as a young guy that didn't know any better.
Yeah, I think you said it pretty well right there. You know, the interesting thing about forcing you to stretch and doing it from a place of love is
Mhm.
that they're not mutually exclusive. It's not just a guy that's a
No,
jerk,
not
you
at all.
know, or it's not just a guy that, wants to go to PetSmart and pet puppies every day.
Yeah.
Like the real life is there.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever you kind of put somebody that loves you enough to push you and hold you accountable,
Yeah.
man,
And
it
our,
can
and our
be.
team has heard me say this a lot of times. Like, I think, I think business leadership and teams are like a lot of like jujitsu, in that you have to step onto the mat in mutual respect. You beat the hell out of each other for however long it is you're trying to beat the hell out of each other, but then you bow and shake hands.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
And that mutual respect to help each other get better, it can't be vindictive. And if it is, you need to get your butt kicked out of your gym,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of guys and gals that train jujitsu kind of can really appreciate kind of that analogy. But man, business is just like that. Like, you get in a boardroom, you get around a conference table, you get in an office, and you wrestle through stuff. But if you don't do so from a place of respect, mutual respect and professionalism, it's going to go haywire really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do it from that other way, then man, you can really tangle and collectively get better, and understand that that strain and stress is a lot like hitting the gym, right? Where if you find that strain, if you learn about a weakness, you pull a wrong move, or if you're lifting weights, you're trying to push to that next level, there's some pain that's required for that growth. And I think that's been one of the most rewarding parts of the last 12 years of running Octane and trying to lead from the front, is all of the pain that's happened that's made us a better team, made me personally a better leader, better husband, a better dad. And hopefully our team has grown, and that they're, better contributors in their homes, in our company, and in the community at large. Yeah.
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So quick question. If there was, like, let's say it's one of your employees, or it's a guy that's in the field who's listening to this and he's ready to kind of take that next step of leadership,
Mhm.
what 2 or 3 things would you say he has to absolutely nail
Ooh,
to take that next
yeah,
step?
yeah. So, in our kind of leadership training, I would say a primary, characteristic of a good leader is own your crap. And we might say that additionally a different way in the field dialect, but you have to own your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think we've read lots of military kind of books over the years, lots of military leadership precedent about kind of extreme ownership or owning your junk. And I think that's a primary step. And even in our interviewing process, we're asking questions
Mm.
to try to understand better, like, hey, is this a finger pointer, or is this someone that owns their own junk?
Hmm.
Because when you're in a leadership role, like we were in our consulting business for so long, especially, and that's all you're doing, um, you've got to be the individual that's willing to fall on the sword in the field on behalf of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the habit of finger pointing, you don't understand what leadership's really about.
Yep.
And so we would start there
Mhm.
every time. And then, man, two, I would probably point them to this book that I drug over here with me tonight for you guys, but I actually wrote both of you guys a copy, called Wisdom of the Bullfrog. And there's a guy named Admiral William McRaven, Bill McRaven, who is a Texan, like, just to the bone. And I love that about the guy. He's a man of faith. But he was also the bullfrog, which, if you know what that is, that's the oldest um, active duty SEAL in the force. And he was a 4-star admiral. And he communicates in a way, and he served with Joint Special Operations Command under a guy named Stan McChrystal, and then kind of rolled into a leadership role in that. And one of my favorite things about Bill McRaven is he kind of soaks in the joint forces leadership concepts into a singular manual. And because of our just privilege of having to be exposed to all these folks for so many years, he just kind of captures all that in a way like, oh, wait, I've heard this lesson. I've heard this lesson. I've heard this lesson. I've heard this lesson. And in fact, I would say the second specific point, apart from the book itself, is I would say run to the sound of the guns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that makes Octane Octane. And, we had this whole black hat ethos around during our consulting days, and it's spilled over into our E&P business and contract operating business. And it's all that really means is like, you're not running away from trouble. If you hear gunfire or in the oil field, particularly like trouble happening, challenges, big problems to solve, we want our team to be the people that are running to that problem to figure out how to solve it and to lead the group of people to help solve it rather than just being this kind of tyrannical a-hole. Nobody wants that guy
Mm-hmm.
or gal on location, right? Or in the office. They want a real team leader. And so the idea of running the sound of the guns, I hope, is something that is been a fingerprint of what we've done so far in the last 12 years of business, and both on the character of our people, but also just on the operations that we've led.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. That kind of reminds me of when if you study a little bit of your oil field history, I was reading a lot about Red Adair when he was doing wild well control. I mean, the way he got started was there was a blowout, and he was the guy that decided he was going to run into it
Yeah.
and shut the well off.
Absolutely.
And that's how he got started because
Yeah.
he ran to the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I so many people have mixed feelings about Red Adair, but I would say from a pure leadership perspective and just an innovation perspective, I mean, the guy showed us how to serve in a very peculiar way, right? In a super dangerous way, in a way that seems illogical to a lot of folks that kind of worship at this foot of the safety gods. Like there's a pragmatic way to do business in the oil field. And I think doing it right and safely is honoring your people well. But sometimes the business requires you to be extraordinary. And I think Red Adair was one of those guys that was extraordinary and showed us that, hey, we can do this safely, but there's a little bit of a wildcatter way to go about it.
Right.
And man, it's one of the things I love about being in the Permian is that wildcatter spirit is so pervasive in the people here that it's hard to have a day and not run into somebody that's wired like that.
That's
Oh yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about living in the Permian is you just run into people that are their hair's on fire and they're not afraid of anything.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I kind of just took a preemptive safety class and just cut all mine off.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be on fire.
You kind of got to be careful. Like if you have an idea, you got to be careful who you run it by because it's like everybody's going to say it's a good idea, and then
Yeah.
now you're doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, and I mean, you want to think about like entrepreneurialism and free market and
Mhm.
capitalism, like being really healthy. This is one of the places where I would say entrepreneurs across North America need to come if they're trying to get an idea funded, if they're willing to work hard, if they're willing to be the person that raises their hand and said, hey, I'll do that.
Yep.
Not a better place on the planet
Mm-mm.
than Midland and Odessa, Texas.
I agree
Honestly.
1,000%.
Just so fantastic. I don't care if you're an immigrant, come
Yep.
here, build a business, do it right, change your family tree, man.
Mhm.
It's
Oh, yeah.
just an absolute fantastic place to be.
Agreed. Rick asked a good question that I'm, talking about kind of your next steps of leadership, the guy in the field, like that's kind of the heart behind why we started this originally was, trying to encourage and get to those people that are out away from home, 30, 60, sometimes longer days at a time. And just hard to, you look up on day 37 and it's like, you don't even really recognize who you're looking at,
Yeah.
What would you say to the guy that, or gal that's just, they kind of academically maybe they know they want to take the next steps in their leadership and kind of professional journey. The reality is they're just trying to make it.
Yeah, and I think one of the right next steps in the leadership journey here is to continue to make a hand. I think our culture broadly out here embraces that idea, but you can't do it mindlessly. You've got to do it with great intentionality. The challenge with that is if you do make a hand, it's easy to get used up, And so you have to understand how to not balance, because balance is an impossibility, but put things in tension, so that you can uh, have a normal life, right? Have a family, have outside interest besides just work, because this business particularly will demand all of you if it'll take all of you if you'll give it all
That's
of you.
right.
And so I think in the leadership journey, you've got to really delineate those things well. And man, if like, I know we were talking earlier tonight, man, just start reading. Read books for Pete's sakes. Like,
Yep.
especially if you're a field personnel, like you've got some time behind a windshield, man, get audiobooks, like
Mhm.
improve yourself, like get some knowledge, right? Learn from other people's experience. Like this guy, Bill McRaven, like he's got a handful of books. Like I'm a total fanboy of this guy, like unapologetically. So,
What are your real quick? What are your top 3 books if you were going to recommend them?
Wisdom of a Bullfrog, because I think it's a manual, total cheat code here, Bible, because it's like
Any
life's
specific
book.
book in the Bible?
If you only had to camp, if you only had to camp in a couple, I would say, man, Proverbs a day keeps the doctor away, kind of thing.
Yep.
There's 31 books, typically 31 days. That's easy peasy.
Yep.
I like the book of Philippians and Ephesians, particularly as far as just kind of summation of how we're supposed to like act how you know how to act. In fact, Philippians 2, probably the most transformational chapter for me personally in the whole stinking book. We're really challenged to make our attitudes like that of Christ Jesus, who didn't consider equality with God as something to be leveraged or grasped for his own benefit. Like if there was ever anybody that was entitled to something, it was him. He's king.
Mhm.
And he gave it all up for us. And so if we're to make our attitude like that of his, it's like, wait, so we discard our entitlement, which I think is the definition of humility, for the record.
Right.
That's real humility, is the absence of entitlement. And if we do that the way he did it, then all this other stuff falls into place. And that's super bizarro for people to like really wrap their heads around. But I remember like that particular passage crashing on me when we lived in El Paso. We lived in a pink house, pink kitchen. I was washing the dishes, super grumbly. And man, the Lord just wrecked me. And then he's like, hey, I've got a bigger plan for you, but you're going to have to like quit being a jerk and not think that this is about you.
Yeah.
This is about other people. And I've equipped you to do some things that you're not even aware of yet. So would you just get out of the stinking way?
Come on.
How old were you at that point? Do you remember?
Gosh, man, I was probably 27, 28, somewhere
Oh
around
yeah,
there.
you're a
Pretty
young
wise
buck.
for
Yeah.
28.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I mean, it hit me between the eyes,
Sure.
That's the way it does it
And
sometimes.
I think like a lot of us, right, as husbands especially, you're married, you're trying to make a hand in your marriage too, and you just kind of get resentful or bitter or grumbly, and you just become a jerk, and you don't even intend to become a jerk. You just become a jerk.
Yep.
And you've got to like put that jerk to death. Like you got to go assassinate that fool,
Mhm.
because he doesn't need to be around. And the real you needs to come out. And I think, man, if we can remember that especially for folks that are on like a 2 and 2, or like you're saying, like, man, especially when they get to like day 37 and they finally go home, hey man, you got to leave that jerk in the field. That jerk is not welcome at the house. So between point A and point B, if you're driving from West Texas to Louisiana, or West Texas to Houston, or just back to Midland from the field, you've got to put that cat to death and not let him enter the house. He does not get to go in your back door.
Dig into that just a touch. You mentioned like the 2 and 2. The idea in our industry, there's a lot of guys that, a lot of gals that are they work for a couple weeks on, couple weeks off, or 30 and 10, or
Yeah.
some type of rotation.
Right.
So, but the idea of when you're here, you're a part of a collective team at least. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're fairly isolated, but a lot of times you're part of kind of a bigger picture
Mhm.
spot. And then life doesn't stop at home
Right.
when you're out here working, right? So
Yeah.
how would you what is it you mentioned earlier, and I agree 100% that there is no such thing as the idea of balance is
It's
never
a complete
gonna-
fallacy. Like
Man,
I
it
don't know who
is.
came up with that idea, but they're lying to us.
And
It's not
multitasking,
happening.
like you can't do it. There's a finite amount of brain injury,
Yeah.
or brain power, right?
Capacity, yeah.
So
Like at the best case scenario is you're doing cognitive sharing where like your brain power is being shared between tasks. You're not ever really kind of truly multitasking, right? Like even the best fighter pilots in the world, not multitasking. Quick succession tasking is a different thing, but like they're not doing multiple things at once.
sure.
But no, I think one of the challenges in the 2-and-2 culture, or if you're Canadian, 28 and 14, is you have purpose at work,
Hmm.
right? Like you're unlocking energy, you're getting grease out of the ground, you're making a hand, you're leading a team, you've got this great group of people, hopefully that are around you, that you're doing something extraordinarily constructive that's really enabling something fantastic globally if you've got your head screwed on about it. And then you go home and you're like, well, I'm just a dad or I'm just a husband. Like, no, like your work for those 14 or 28 days isn't who you are, it's what you do. You are who you are.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things as employers, particularly, that we need to be mindful of is fostering a healthier tension there and not using people up, right? In that kind of 2-and-2 culture. Like it is a necessary mechanism in schedule structure. Now, as the first gentleman of Midland, I would love more of those people to not commute back and forth in twos and to
Same.
live here and to pour into our community and join us in this great adventure that is the Permian. But that's not our present reality, and it hasn't been for a really long time.
Yep.
And so I think it's critical that we remind our teams like, hey man, you've got to be the professional that you are in the field at home. Like you've got to take home as seriously as you do making hole
That's good.
or pumping dirt,
Mhm.
right? Or getting your production optimized. Like go back to the house with that level of seriousness about your job, both you men and women, because those people that are at the house are worth so much more than those molecules of hydrocarbons you're getting out of the ground.
Yep. Or what your friends at work think about you.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of just shifting gears based off a little bit of what you said, though, was, obviously here in the Permian, most people work in oil and gas, and we go through the ebbs and flows of oil and gas. Here, especially recently, we've had lots of layoffs. For the guy that's sitting at home twiddling his thumbs, what would you tell him to do right now to make the most of it?
I mean, the same thing I've been saying for the last 12 years, like make a hand,
Yeah.
like don't quit. Right. I think there's a lot of independents like Octane and I mean, literally hundreds of others just like us that are looking for that man or woman to be a part of their team.
Hmm.
In fact, like we've hired 3 people from the Endeavor team that kind of were collateral damage, as it were, between the Diamondback and Endeavor merger.
Yep.
And I'm so excited that they're a part of our team.
Mm.
They're great additions. They enhance our ethos. They're smart. They're capable. They're hardworking. And there's thousands of other people just like them that have been kind of going through the same process. And so I would say, hey, if you're tired of the big company game, like go to what is the bread and butter of the Permian.
Hmm.
Go call on an independent and say, hey, I want to make you a hand.
Rick's done a good job of putting words to it in previous episodes that, a lot of guys, specifically out here, kind of struggle with their identity of like, what am I? I'm a 30-year-old dude still swinging a hammer, or I am,
And I would say one thing to that. Thank God that you're doing that.
amen.
And don't demean yourself.
That's right.
Don't discount the value of what your job is in the grand scheme of the American enterprise, because it's so stinking important.
100%.
But it isn't who you are.
That's right. And I think the challenge for those guys is sometimes it's not who you want to be. you know.
Yeah.
And I've struggled with that in my own life. Is like, you know, there are times where I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I've tried a couple things, and you know, for whatever reason, you know, we're sitting here in GHS HQ today, switching up our location, which
Worldwide
is
headquarters.
amen, yeah. And it's great, but I'm, you know, I don't know GHS, and for me, for today, that's not a struggle, but there was
Yeah.
a time where that was,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that when guys put their identity, specifically guys, I'm sure it's everyone's susceptible to it.
For
I can
sure.
speak to a guy's perspective, but you know that whenever you put your identity in what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, rather than who made you
Mm.
and what he's made you to go do, man, that's always going to be a fruitless exercise, you know.
It'll
And
fall short every time.
every time, you know.
Yep.
Speak a little bit to in your own journey, like the way that you were wired, the way that you've kind of taken steps to change the course of where you're at,
Mhm.
but specific, you know, kind of. I'm big on systems, you know. System. I told you I was a gross shell guy. You know, systems protect, and
Yeah.
they, you know, they take the emotion out of it. What are some systems that you've applied to your own life that have helped you kind of take that step, going from one thing to the next?
I think, systems are a good question because they're constantly evolving,
Mm.
you know, especially in our enterprise. Um, but even in our family, those systems have evolved a lot over the last, 20 something years. And I would say, making sure that um, you're democratizing information. And I'm not saying that word because it's a fancy buzzword, but like, you got to get, like, especially if you're the leader, you got to get the thing that's in your head out of your head.
That's right.
You got to hand that thing you got to hand the keys to your team.
Mm.
And that's a bit of a philosophical concept, but it's actually the beginning of a system that actually really works. Because when you enable your people to do the thing that they're designed, called, and gifted to do, to be,
Yep.
then you can be who you're supposed to be.
Mm.
But until you relinquish that control,
Yep.
dude, you're jacked up. And the system, no matter how great it is, ain't going to work
Mm,
because you're a control freak,
sure.
Yeah.
men and women alike,
Mhm.
you know? And so we've got to shake loose of that and hire people that are smarter than us, and then provide a framework for them to operate. And that's different for every business, right? Like a GHS, that's way different than what it looks like at
Sure.
Octane. But what both of us have to do is lead our leaders.
Mhm.
Mhm.
For both of us in the in the primary leadership seat, our job is to lead the leaders and to think. And if we're doing those things really, really well, and then checking up on it,
Mhm.
and for us in our collective business, whether it's in the service business, P&P business, is get your butt to the field for accountability, because the shepherd smells like his sheep,
Mhm.
Yep.
right?
Mm,
And so
that's good.
if there's one system that I can impress upon anybody that's listening to this podcast today, it's go smell like your sheep.
Mm,
Mhm.
If you smell like your sheep, I promise your business is going to be healthy.
Yeah.
I promise your effort's going to be healthy. Even if you're not the guy or gal that owns the shop, if you smell like your sheep, the sheep are going to be in good shape,
yeah.
and the
Mhm.
sheep will take care of you.
Yep.
And you can take care of your sheep.
Oh, that's
And
good.
that was modeled to us a couple thousand years ago of what it was really supposed to look like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's great.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's good. Now, we're kind of getting to the point where we need to kind of conclude some things, but one question, I love asking this question. Um, actually, just real quick, Jared and I actually got connected because I led a faith-driven entrepreneur class this last spring, just because we have such a high concentration of entrepreneurs, but not a ton of outlets for those entrepreneurs, that are faith-based.
Mhm.
But this is a question I love to ask faith-based entrepreneurs, because I think this is something that not just entrepreneurs, but anybody who's trying to be a leader kind of struggles with. But how do you balance striving and working hard whenever trying to achieve?
I don't. I mean, I just leave it on the field,
Yeah.
honestly. Whether it's been Octane or, I took a 2-year hiatus at a company called Oxysmart. And I think every day I got up, my desire was, the way I honor the Lord and what I'm doing is to leave it all in the field.
Hmm.
And the results are his. I mean, Paul says in one of his epistles, he's like, listen, uh, you know, Apollos waters and I plant, Apollos waters, but God gives the growth. Like we can only do so much.
Yep.
We're not the ones that get things to grow when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And every farmer out here that's growing cotton in West Texas knows that firsthand,
Yep.
right? They can till the ground, they can fertilize the ground, they can plant, they can water. They don't get to make anything grow. And it's the same is true for us in the oil business as well, but just business in general.
No, what you reminded me, this kind of confuses people, but one of my favorite books in the Bible, I tell them all the time, is Ecclesiastes, because it's
Yeah.
the vanity of vanities, baby.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes
That's
I'm just,
painfully sobering.
yeah, it's like you read that and you're like, but God, I'm doing all these things. Why is there not? And you read that and it's Solomon who was gifted as one of the
The
most
richest,
wise.
wisest, like dopest of dudes ever.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
And he was like,
bemoaning all
yeah,
that.
and he was like, hey, just so you know, there's gonna be some people way dumber than you that are gonna make way more than you, and
Yeah.
that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And so, which actually brought me some peace because I
Yeah.
was like, all right, God, it's your thing, not mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think understanding, in the striving part, like when we ultimately understand that we don't own any of this stuff, that we're just stewarding,
Mm-hmm.
man, there's ultimate freedom in that.
Yeah.
Because then it's like I'm striving because I serve the King.
Yep.
And not really for any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's some personal benefit in that for me, that's great. Fun. But I mean, if you really in your heart of hearts understand that you're just in the stewardship role, in the worst business deal, I mean, for us, the best business deal
Right.
in the history of the world, for God, the worst business deal in the history of the world, right? Then, man, you want to talk about being dangerous, like in the best of ways? Oh man, freedom. With freedom comes real danger.
Yep.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
My
that's good.
motives always tell on me.
Yep.
You talk about like just understand that you're steward and letting God handle it. Every time I've tried to control something, it hadn't worked out real well for me. And so it's like, and usually it's coming from a place that's not healthy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really well said.
Well, and I'll say this, in watching kind of Lori lead our city, I think as a husband, one of my favorite things in watching this particularly is this constant attitude of service. Like she really just shows up every day because she loves this place and she loves the people. And, this is not a sexy, glamorous job that she has. And as her family, it's not sexy and glamorous for us, on the back end. But what's happening in real time is that this place is getting better and better and better. And for families, it's improving, and we're getting water, and we're making these steps ahead. And 20 years from now, nobody's going to remember that. But just, to this kind of same point around your striving question, Rick, is she's going to show up and leave it on the field every day. And as a husband and business partner, and someone that's getting to look on in it from a different perspective, kind of in this short political career that she's had, it's extraordinarily gratifying to see what selflessness actually accomplishes.
Mm-hmm.
Because she has zero benefit in this at all. And it's so much fun to watch her just pour herself out on behalf of the community, for the community's benefit,
Mm-hmm.
and really for the region's benefit, ultimately.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, you have anything else you want to ask before we wrap up?
No, I think it's worth saying though that I just have a tremendous amount of respect for seeing how you honor Lori,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
you're no slouch yourself, obviously, and to see that see a guy that's won a little bit and leading well,
Yeah.
leading his family well, and see how you honor your wife that happens to be the mayor of a town that we love and
Right.
care about. Man, it's encouraging,
Well,
and
thanks.
I just want to tell you that's seen.
Yeah. And I think, we were talking about this earlier this evening, is I think one of the things that as men we can really do in the coming days is, and just using her as a particular example, is we've got brilliant, high capacity, high horsepower women in this community.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best in the world, and they're married to a bunch of knuckleheads like us. And so we know they have to have high capacity. But man, if we as a community of men particularly can facilitate unleashing them
Hmm.
on the world, Midland turns into a magic place almost overnight. And the combination of our working in tandem together because of our giftedness, collective giftedness, is something that so excites me about this next generation that's coming up to leadership in Midland. Is we're getting to stand on the shoulders of giants that have gone before us,
Hmm.
quality leaders, men and women that love Jesus and that have given so much to this community.
Yep.
But we have a newer charge. We have a bigger charge to take us into this next century, into this next generation of leadership globally, and it's going to take all of us to get it done. And so for us as guys, it's our job to make sure that we're enabling that oxygen to be, breathed in and soaked
Hmm.
in so that all that growth can really happen the right way that I think God intended for it to happen.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's good.
Like you said, get you fired up to go do your
No,
taxes.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, hey, thanks for being on the podcast. So we really appreciate it. And for all you that are listening, if you could just real quick, if this is something that you enjoyed and found value in, please go ahead and subscribe, follow us wherever you're listening to us. We'd love for you to join us as we continue to have awesome guests like Jared. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate y'all so much. Y'all have a good one.